Back at it again, baby, and yeah, I already know we are about to ruffle a lot of feathers just from this title alone. Holy, but let's dive in.
Black Lives Matter. Facts don't matter. Right now, the narrative that is being set is that the system is inherently racist, white privilege, yada, 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 and when cops see any young black man, they go into Lloyd Christmas mode. To the point where places...
I'm glad he explained what that actually meant, because I had no clue what he was talking about until we saw that clip there.
It's like Black Lives Matter, leftist websites, even MTV News are pushing this idea that innocent black men are being shot for no reason at all. Now, the purpose of this video is not to justify nor condemn any of the deaths that occurred during these police-civilian interactions, but to provide you with the context that MTV News and Vox and HuffPo refuses to. Facts don't matter. Let's just use this video from MTV News.
Let's dive in.
Circulated to start. All right, the situation with Philando, we don't really know a whole bunch yet. That didn't stop MTV News from putting it in a video, and it seems to be a really horrific accident, and hopefully justice will be served when the information comes out.
I definitely remember seeing that video all over the place when that situation happened.
But we do know that he wasn't shot for broken taillights. He was shot during an altercation where he was pulled over because he matched a description for a suspect in an armed robbery. Police were on high alert for a gun. Police get shot in routine traffic stops all the time. Statistically, yeah, it happens a lot at the hands of young black men. And there was a miscommunication with Philando reaching for what he claims to be his wallet or ID, and the cop thought was a gun. Now, that doesn't mean that any of this is justified or it's a good situation, but to simplify it to shot for broken taillight is deliberately misleading. Clearly, Alton Sterling wasn't shot for selling CDs. He was shot because someone called in a report that he was threatening a homeless man with a gun. He was tased first and he continued to resist arrest, and he had a firearm on him, which I'm guessing was illegal because this guy had a rap sheet a mile long, including being a registered sex offender and having done time in prison for violent crimes. This wasn't a routine pat down. This was an altercation with a longtime felon who didn't want to go back to the slammer. Is it unfortunate?
Hold on, wait, what was that checklist?
Altercation with a longtime felon who didn't want to go.
Cops called after you threatened a homeless man, resisted arrest, tased first, didn't work, was illegally carrying, may have reached for a gun, disregarding commands. Now, if you reach for a officer's hip carried firearm, I mean, I think that's common sense what's about to happen to you. You hate to say it because obviously you don't want to see anybody lose their life. I think that's common sense as well. But since common sense isn't common anymore, I'll put that on Front Street. But y'all let me know how you feel in the comment section.
Go back to the slammer. Is it unfortunate? Yes. Was he arrested and shot for selling CDs? No. Only Mr. Clark was not shot. For attending a birthday party, he was shot for preventing paramedics from assisting with an assault victim. He wasn't handcuffed, he refused to show his hands, and there is DNA evidence showing that he reached for a cop's gun. He wasn't there to play balloon tricks. Almost forgot, little tidbits. The assault victim that he was interfering with the police trying to help, it was his girlfriend. Yeah, he was the one who assaulted her. What a gem. But by all means, please continue with the narrative that cops are simply out there hunting down young black men because they're attending birthday parties and selling CDs. I hate you. What they don't tell you is Walter Scott tried to grab an officer's stun gun.
This is
By all means, please continue with the narrative that cops are...
This is the same sort of situation. If that is true and you're reaching for an officer's firearm, I mean, come on. I personally watched a video where a suspect got hold of an officer's firearm. Yeah, you can imagine how that video ended.
Simply out there hunting down young black men because they're attending birthday parties and selling CDs. I hate you. What they don't tell you is Walter Scott tried to grab an officer's stun gun, and he did run away from the police because he didn't want to pay child support. That being said, the cop acted poorly, but no...
Oh yeah, I remember seeing that video. That video looked horrible. Somebody running away from you and, you know, yeah.
Justice, no peace. Wait, there's justice. He's being charged with murder. The system works.
Yeah, matter of fact, I think he got didn't he get 20 years, the cop that did that situation? Let me know in the comment section. I want to say it was 20 years or something, maybe 30. But yeah, somebody running away from you, that's no longer a threat. I don't agree with that. You know, that video looked bad, and obviously the court thought the same thing, because if I remember correct, he got like 20 years.
Justice. He's being charged with murder. The system worked. Okay, Michael Brown was not shot for stolen cigarillos. What happened at that convenience store was a robbery, not shoplifting. There was use of violent force. He was identified as a suspect in that robbery. He reached for an officer's gun. But hands up, don't shoot! His hands weren't up. He was punching a cop in the face and reaching for his gun. When that happens, sometimes officers are trained to shoot. Are there several points where this didn't have to escalate? Of course, but the idea that a racist cop picked off some gentle giant in Michael Brown is entirely inaccurate, as the rest of these examples. Sandra Bland, traffic violation. To the untrained, uneducated eye, that looks terrible. She was murdered for a traffic violation? No, she was detained and she killed herself. A lot of people want to say it's a conspiracy. No. Third-party autopsy results revealed that, were consistent with that, and there was marijuana in her system. No, I'm not saying that all people smoking joints should go kill themselves. Just, if you're watching this, go get a snack. Again, Courtney, what?
Go get a snack, because people who smoke get the munchies. Go get a snack. Oh, man.
Wasn't killed because his car broke down. This was a horrible situation with a cop who, by the way, was fired after. It's important to note that he was fired for not doing his job well. He thought a car was abandoned. It was 3:15 a.m., dark outside. Mr. Jones was there, and he did have a legal firearm, but you're a cop. You're looking into what you think is an abandoned car in the middle of the night, and all of a sudden, you're confronted with an armed subject. So the cop was fired, and it seems rightfully so, but try and think about this situation. He didn't go into it shooting a guy because he was black. He probably went into it a little bit nervous in a bad area of town at a dark time of the night, and he had stories in the back of his head from all of his friends in the force who had died, who made a wrong decision, guy pulls out a gun, they're dead, and someone has to go explain to their wife and kids why daddy's never...
And this is the reason why I could never be an officer, right? Because faced with these split-second decisions, I wouldn't, well, I should say I wouldn't want to be faced with these split-second decisions. I understand who I am as a person, and there may come a certain situation or circumstance where I may make the wrong choice. And obviously this cop made the wrong choice. But we can understand how that could happen. I mean, late at night, you're on high alert, you get confronted with a gun all of a sudden, you know. We all want to make it back home. I think that's just obvious. I think that's across the board. We all want to make it back home. So when you're startled late at night, firearm involved, come on, you know. And I think that cops should be trained better. And if you don't have nerves of steel, then maybe you shouldn't be an officer. I know that I don't. Which is why I didn't choose that occupation, because I gave it some thought for sure. But maybe I'm wrong. You guys let me know how you feel in the comment section.
Coming home again. Again, he was fired, but let's try and see this as more than car broke down, he was shot because he was black. Freddie Gray was not killed for carrying a switchblade. Okay, first off, he fled the police unprovoked. He saw the cops, they looked at him, boom, the kid bolted. And he happened to have a switchblade on him. Again, not justifying all of the actions, but half of the cops who arrested him were black, and he was brought up on weapons charges in an area that is notorious for high crime. Freddie Gray had something like 20 criminal cases against him, 5 open at the time of arrest. By the way, when he was high as a kite on opioids, and I think it was pot in his system. Now that matters because the argument is that he was killed in a rough ride in a cop car, by the way, with half the cops who were black, and he died 7 days later in a trauma ward. But the fact that there was a struggle and he was high as a kite can certainly lead to one being more likely to be injured, especially considering that a judge let the driver go. Does it mean that mistakes weren't made? No. Does it mean that this death was warranted? No. But he wasn't shot for...
What did that last one say?
No. Does it mean
died from spinal injuries? Sheesh.
That this death was warranted? No. But he wasn't shot for having a switchblade. Sean Bell for leaving a bachelor party. Well, he was just enjoying his night. Except what actually happened is he left the club being patrolled by undercover cops. He made a run at the cops when they identified themselves openly as cops, and the members of his entourage were known felons. Dang, most bachelor parties just have male firefighter strippers. Female. Oscar Grant. I didn't finish Fruitvale Station because I found it incredibly boring. It appears that this is a case of a cop not doing his job well. For that, he was fired. So, I'll give you this one, MTV News. Except Tamir Rice wasn't killed for a...
Hey. One he agreed on. Got to give him credit for that.
So,
Yeah.
I'll give you this one, MTV News. Except Tamir Rice wasn't killed for a super...
I respect it. Seems unbiased where he saw BS, he called BS. I got to respect that.
For soaker in the park. He was aiming a firearm replica with the orange tip removed at people in the park. His age was not determinable at the time, as you can see by this video, and officers weren't informed that the gun might have been fake. Is it a horrible, unfortunate situation?
Yeah, that was
yes,
bad.
but they didn't say, hey,
That was bad, for real.
you know what would be fun today? If we go kill a black kid for Nerf. Ramarley Graham. Again, this is an even more complicated situation. The cops, a narc unit, followed him after they thought that they had spotted a gun in his waistband, and they had some reason to believe that he had just participated in a drug deal. Well, it turns out they may have had some reason because he ran from the cops when they identified themselves and he tried to flush a bag of weed down a toilet. He ended up being shot when he didn't have his hands up, and allegedly he reached for something in his waistband. Now, the cops didn't have a warrant to be in his apartment, so guess what? I have a problem with those cops and they should be fired. Again, was this guy shot solely because he was black, or is this an example of a situation that escalated and requires context for people to understand? No. He wasn't killed for walking around with a knife at all. He was a gang member, a currently active gang member. They found him after a report from a stabbing victim at large, still holding the knife. He continued to hold the knife and refused to put down the knife, even after being pepper sprayed and shot with a beanbag gun. And then he started walking toward the cops with the knife, as you can see in this video. So yes, they put 20 rounds in him. A lot of people don't know this. Knives are incredibly dangerous, much more dangerous than guns at distances less than 21 feet. We'll have the references up at louderwithcrowder.com. People get hurt all the time. Officers get maimed all the time by knives. So in this situation, the officers have a decision to make. Eliminate the threat, who is a currently active gang member who may or may not have stabbed someone else, who refuses to drop the knife and is coming toward you, or risk serious bodily harm by an active knife wielder in an attempt to be more politically correct. Instead, they opted to eliminate the threat so they could go home to their families. What choice would you make?
I do have to comment on 20 rounds. My goodness. I mean, riddled. Talk about being riddled. Now, I have seen videos where people have been hit with projectiles and have reanimated. And it's wild how it happens. I mean, I can recall a video right now where a guy was hit in the face, like dead on face from like 2 feet away. And just, you thought he was done as a doorknob. I don't want to, I got to be careful with my terminology here because of YouTube and how the terms of service, but you would think he was done. I mean, just the way he fell over and was just sitting there, and then all of a sudden he gets up and walks away. And now obviously he was hurt pretty badly, but people can reanimate. And it's wild how that happens, but my goodness, 20? Now, the guy did have a knife. And as Crowder acknowledged, knives are very dangerous. And cops are humans at the end of the day. They're just like us. They want to make it home. And like I stated earlier, this is the reason why I couldn't be an officer, because I'm making it home. You know, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I am making it home. That is my priority. Is making it home safely. So I knew that occupation is not for me, because sometimes you're going to have to put yourself in some very, very, very dangerous situations, and you have to show some type of restraint, even in situations where you know there's a possibility I may not walk back through my front door again. But you still have to show that restraint, because under the law, you're not allowed to do what you need to do to make it back home. And yeah, I don't think I would have been great when faced with that situation, which is why, like I stated, did not want that occupation. But and I know some people can make the argument, hey, you could have shot him in the leg, but if you miss, it's going to be a real dangerous situation. You know, if he's walking towards you, you aim for the leg, you miss, he's here, you miss, wham, right in your gut. And of course, typically one stab wound, you depending on where it is, obviously, if somebody hits you in the heart, I mean, I'll see you in the next life. But I don't know about you, but I don't want to get hit with a knife. Okay. So obviously officers are trained to hit center mass, because that is the biggest and easiest target to hit. So aiming for legs, it sounds good, but in reality, it's dangerous for all parties. You got ricocheting bullets. You have the possibility of you actually missing and getting harmed yourself. So I guess there's no true good way for a situation like that to end, but it just sucks seeing it, and hearing about, 20 rounds getting put in someone, it just sucks to actually hear that. But y'all let me know how you feel about it in the comment section. Sorry that was long-winded, by the way, but anyway.
See previous example. Katherine Johnson, here's one that I agree with. Isn't that great that we can create a video? Example. Katherine Johnson, here's one that I agree with. Isn't that great that we can create a video that's actually truthful to encourage a dialogue of honest discussion? To the best of my knowledge, according to my research and Not Gay Jared's research, the cops were acting unbelievably outside of the law. They may have planted evidence. It seems like there was some shady stuff going on with falsified reports, but here's the beauty. The cops went to prison, as they should.
Good.
Would it have been better that a 92-year-old didn't get killed in a botched drug raid? Of course, but the cops are in prison. John Crawford.
Good. And I would go as far as, and some people disagreed with me the last time I said it, and I understand, but I would go as far as when a cop is clearly in the wrong, not only should they go to prison, but they should have double the sentence that a regular citizen would have. You're put in a position of power, and to abuse that power obviously is a very, very dangerous situation. If a cop plants something on you, it's your word against his. You really have no way to refute it. Honestly, I mean, you could say, oh, well, this person has never done this and never been in trouble. How could they have blah, 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 but it's your word against his. If there's no cameras around or no witnesses, you just up craps creek without a paddle. So I think to abuse that power is obviously very, very dangerous. And if you are caught doing so, you should be given double the time. But as always, you guys let me know how you feel in the comment section.
For the third, this is the famous Walmart Beaver Creek guy with the toy BB gun. Do we have video on this?
Yep.
Okay, let's bring that up. So some shoppers mistook it for a real gun. There are some reports that he refused to comply with officers, but look at this. This is nowhere near the hunting section, and he's using the gun to select his Fruit Loops. This is wildly erratic behavior. I think this is an unfortunate situation. He really shouldn't have been shot, and the cops should probably be punished. But he wasn't just shot because he picked up a BB gun at the Walmart toys section. They said, there's a black guy, let's shoot him, we have an excuse. Kenneth Chamberlain, an example of cops being crappy. By the way, white guy, let's shoot him, we have an excuse. Kenneth
Medical device called police to his home.
Chamberlain, an example of cops being crappy. By the way, white people encounter crappy cops too. A medical device called the police to his home. It seems like he refused to open the door. He had a blood alcohol, at which point he was legally drunk. And it's just a crappy situation all around. Seems like bad cops. Can we find some common ground? Can we have a truthful discussion here?
I'm not familiar with this situation. If anybody knows more about this one, let me know in the comment section.
Eric Garner. Go back to my previous podcasts. I always maintained that the cops were unnecessarily rough with Eric Garner. But he was resisting arrests. He was big. They didn't kill him. The guy had a heart attack because he was so overweight. Still, the cop should be prosecuted. That cop that was raking his face into the sidewalk, I have a problem with him. That's an abuse of authority. Can we find some common ground, or do you still have to lie about everyone else?
Absolutely. I mean, as a cop, once you subdue the guy, once you've got him on the ground, pushing his face into it, you're just abusing your power at that point. I get that, emotions are heightened, adrenaline is pumping. You're probably, really, really angry in that moment, but you have to be professional. And if you can't be, then you probably shouldn't have the occupation. You should do exactly what I did and just not have the occupation. And I think, and I always state that self-awareness is key. Self-awareness is key. Know yourself. Don't lie to yourself and say, oh, yeah, I can do this job because, I'll be able to maintain my composure in this situation and that situation. No, you won't. No, you won't. And I'm self-aware enough to know that I know that I won't. So guess what? I'm not a cop. So, yeah, listen, as a cop, you got to be professional. You have to know yourself, and that's unfortunate.
Look, I have a problem with him. That's an abuse of authority. Can we find some common ground, or do you still have to lie about everyone else? India Beatty holding a fake gun. That's not what happened. It was 1:20 a.m. It was dark. Cops were investigating an unrelated case. They saw her getting into an argument with an unarmed person, and she threatened him with the gun. She then refused to comply with police officers and was shot as a result. Unfortunate, yes. An example of clear-cut racism? No, of course not. Well, nude and
you point a firearm at an officer. I mean, I think we all know what's going to happen to you. I feel like that's common sense. Am I wrong? Let me know in the comment section. Rest in peace to all these lives lost as well. You know, I don't want to make light of anybody losing their life, obviously.
Erratic is a very vague term, but full of clear-cut racism? No, of course not. Well, nude and erratic.
Nude and erratic?
Erratic is a very vague term, but the cop was black here, so yeah. Trayvon Martin for wearing a hoodie. Oh, thank you, Geraldo Rivera, for your misspeak, making this a meme for all time. No, he wasn't killed for wearing a hoodie. George Zimmerman, I've said it. He's a jackass. Not a fan. He should have stood down. He didn't have to follow this kid. But when that situation escalates to the point where the kid is bashing your head into the concrete, here's the deal. Whenever you assault somebody, where the kid is bashing your head into the concrete, here's the deal. Whenever you assault somebody that violently, you're forfeiting your right to live. People don't like to hear that, but here's the deal. If someone holds me at knife point or gun point or assaults me in the street or sucker punches me, you don't know what the intent is of that person. You don't know if they're simply trying to impress their friends or if it's some form of gang initiation or if they're a crazy person dead set on killing you. You don't know if they want your watch or they want your life. The second you escalate it to a point that is violent enough that could kill somebody, whether it's your intent or not, you forfeit your right to live. And that's what happened here. Tragic, yes, but this is not out of the ordinary. Again, the point of this video is not to justify all the killings, nor is it to condemn all of the killings. I think if we're being honest, I've been fair and pretty reasonable. If you don't think so, let me know below. The point is that when it's Black Lives Matter, or MTV News, or HuffPo, or whatever the organization is that day, when they put out there this idea that cops in record numbers are simply killing black people because of a level of melanin in their skin for benign activities and no reason at all, what does that do? Well, it makes it okay to vilify cops. It makes it okay to dehumanize cops. And it makes it okay to treat them subhumanely. Because think about this for a second. If you genuinely believe, as many of the cop killers out there right now do, that officers are killing people for simple things like selling CDs, for going to a birthday party, well, of course you could justify it as your duty to kill police officers. And people have. My point is that if you are not honest...
The only problem I have with that is when you start escalating it to the point where you're retaliating against officers, that retaliation is returned, right? For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. So now you've put even more officers on high alert, which therefore increases the risk of even more people being harmed, because now officers are on extreme high alert, excuse me. So their trigger finger is going to be ready to go at a moment's notice at the slightest movement in the wrong direction, or, you know, at the wrong moment. It's donezo, cooked. Why? Because these officers are all on high alert now, because they've seen their comrades all go down and not be able to return home. And like I said earlier, everybody wants to go back home. Are there bad cops that will do it for no reason, just because of some hate or some God complex or whatever the case may be? Yeah. But I feel like that is like 0.5% of all cops. If there was a statistic out there, I would assume that the bad cop percentage would be 0.5%. So 99.5% of cops are good and do the right thing. The 0.5% paint a terrible light over all the rest of them. And it's unfortunate. I know some cops personally, great individuals. And like I've stated this in other videos. If you met them, you wouldn't even know that they were cops. If you just met them in plain clothes, you wouldn't even know. you'd have no clue at all. I mean, they're just as cool as the rest of us. Don't hold themselves too highly or too seriously. Just as cool as a cucumber. So, and I think it's important for people to see cops like that so they understand, like, not all cops are bad. It's just the bad ones that get put on the news, which is good, but sometimes the news makes it seem or sound like all cops are that way. And that's not the case.
If you are simply using a false narrative to try and generate clicks, you then allow somebody to aim their latest outrage cannon at whoever subject you deem to be suitable. In this case, lately, unfortunately, it's been a lot of innocent police officers. Right before the Dallas shootings, if you watch this channel, I said, hey, if it gets to the point where it's more controversial to say wait for the facts than it is to demand the public lynching of officers, we have a problem. That video was released right before the Dallas shootings. I am telling you this right now. If we do not start having an honest conversation about what is going on, you are going to create an atmosphere that you can't take back and you will regret. That's the only purpose to this video. Hope it's been of use to you. Next one will have more immature wiener jokes.
So, yeah, like you said, some of these were terrible on the officer's part, and some of these officers were fired or even put in prison because of their actions. And I agree with that. When an officer is out of line, when he's out of bounds, or she is out of bounds, they should be arrested and held to the fullest extent of the law. And in my opinion, double that, to make sure that these individuals do not take advantage of their position of power, or it's less likely that they will take advantage of their position of power because they know, hey, if I'm convicted of this, I'm going to prison for double the time. You guys can let me know how you feel about that in the comment section. If you agree or disagree, why or why not. I'm interested to hear what you have to say. But yeah, for the most part, I agree with Steven Crowder. Like I said, it's unfortunate. You hate to see it. You don't want to see the loss of life. But even in like the situation where the gentleman had the knife and had 20 rounds, but like it just sucks to even hear about. You know what I mean? Like, man. But at the same time, I know if I was faced in that, same situation, I got to make it home. And I'm sure a lot of you would agree with that statement. We're making it home. And it's easy in hindsight to say, oh man, you should have just shot at his leg or at his hip or whatever. But if you miss, or his hand, just shoot his hand, knock the knife out of his hand. Yeah, but if you miss and he's within distance, it's probably going to anger him because you shot at him. And now he's within range to do you some serious bodily harm in that situation. And also, depending on your backstop, what's behind your target, if you miss, now you're putting somebody else's life at risk because you got ricocheting. No, obviously in that situation there was concrete, so you have some ricocheting. But if your backstop is an apartment building and you end up sending a projectile through a wall of an innocent child, now you got this whole situation. Oh, well, how could you have missed? You're supposed to be trained. Well, I was trying to save this gentleman's life by hitting him in the leg. Yeah, I missed. The leg is a small target. But now this other young lady lost her life because you aimed for the leg and not the center mass in the chest where you knew you weren't going to miss. So now you have a whole nother situation. So I would just like to hear people's opinions on that. Anybody that would have said that, because I've heard that argument before. I've personally had that argument myself. Why not just shoot him in the hand or in the leg? And then once you actually get trained on firearms, you realize it's a difficult situation, especially if somebody's moving, depending on how far they are. Your adrenaline's really pumping. You're already kind of a little shaky. You know what I mean? So hitting the chest is a whole lot easier than this size of a target that's actually moving in that kind of situation or circumstance. So yeah, let me know your opinions in the comment section below. If you agreed, if you disagreed, why not? If you think I'm an idiot, let me know in the comment section. All right, like, share, comment, and of course, hit that subscribe button if you are new. And right after you do that, check out that video too. You might like it. Peace and love. I'm out.